Hi, I'm Tinny from Mini Bowl Design, and today I'm going to talk about wicks, carbon felt wicks. I've gotten a few emails from people asking some questions about the wicks, so I thought I would sit down and do a run-through on wick etiquette. Now, there's a couple of things here that I may not have said before, but I'm going to this time. On these newer stoves that have the new style simmer top or the simmer ring, this carbon felt has to be pushed down, just seated down, so that when you put the simmer top on, it doesn't touch the carbon felt. If the simmer ring touches the carbon felt, you'll experience a small flare up and you'll get a bigger flame than you want to simmer. So it has to be down. I've made this top extra wide so there's room, but it still has to be pushed down and tamped down. It can't be standing up. Okay, that's one. The second thing is the carbon felt wick, the inner piece, if I can get a hold of it here, this part, has to be long enough to go all the way to the bottom of the stove. Some people have been confused by my description of how to do this, and some people think that there's supposed to be a quarter to 3/8 gap between the wick and the bottom of the stove for a fuel reservoir. Nothing could be further from the truth. This wick wants to be all the way to the bottom of the stove, as far as it'll go, which I know isn't a real easy thing to do. But nonetheless, if you goof around a little bit, you can get it. You just kind of spin it, put it down in, and then tamp it down so that your simmer ring doesn't touch on it. Now, I've made them a little extra long so that when they go down in, when they touch the bottom, you kind of got to push them a little bit, and they'll have to kind of scrunch down to get down so they don't hit the simmer ring. And the reason I did that was, after these burn for a while, the carbon felt will retract a little bit, get a little bit smaller. So the top ring is oversized, and the carbon felt piece in the middle is a little bit longer than it should be. So initially you push it down a little bit, compress it a little bit, and then after it burns for a while, it'll shrink a little bit, and it'll be just about the right height to just touch the bottom and just stay flush with the top of the top ring. And once again, the carbon felt does not want to touch the simmer ring. It wants to be a little below it so that it doesn't touch it. Okay, enough said about that. Now, second question is the remotes, the chicken water remotes. Now, I guess not everybody understands everything here. This notch here, which in this SS remote, substandard, is pretty pronounced. In some of the earlier ones, it wasn't as pronounced. That notch is supposed to be there. Some people have emailed me and asked me if that was a mistake. No, that has to be there for it to work. That's the vent. And the reason why that's there's two reasons. One is the air has to get out for the fuel to come down into place. And it also, as the fuel comes down, there's a little bit of a bouncy effect where the air kind of stretches when you flip it over. And also, if you have a fuel line on it, as you tilt the fuel line up and the fuel runs back, there has to be some room for the fuel level to expand and contract. And this vent is big, so it can absorb those two things. Now, people have asked, evidently didn't get directions with their chicken waterer, which is entirely possible, or they didn't read the directions, which is also entirely possible. When you go to flip this over, you look at where the vent is, and when you go to flip it over, you want the vent at the top. So if the vent being right here where my finger is, you tilt it up slowly this way, and the alcohol will run down and run back into the bottle, and then continue to tilt it up around. Then, once you've done that, if you lift the stove or lower the bottle below the stove, the alcohol in the fuel line and any that's in the stove not trapped by the carbon felt will run down and run back into the bottle. I prefer to put the vent on the top and tilt it up like this, and then drain the fuel from the fuel line back into it, and then when you finish, bring it all the way to the top. Then you wait a minute and screw the lid off. Now this one, this new SS remote, it doesn't have a cap pressed into it anymore, so it has the threads cut right directly into the plastic. And because I've done it that way, it gets rid of the little edge inside that the cap used to have. So when you do tilt it up, the alcohol on the older ones got caught on the edge of the cap, and it got a little pool in there. When you tilted it up, you get alcohol on your fingers. This one's designed so that the bottom chamber is a little smaller, so there isn't any edge for the fuel to catch on, and it all flows right back into the bottle. So this remote, probably the first one I've made so far, if you put the vent on the top and tilt it up like this, right there, all the fuel will go back in the bottle, and you won't get any alcohol on your fingers. If you do it too quick, there may be some alcohol just clinging to the plastic, that when you tilt it up, you get a drop or two. But if you bring it up like that and wait 10 or 15 seconds for the alcohol to run off the edge of the plastic and run into the bottle, and then tilt it up, you won't get any on your fingers. And this is really the first one that was totally foolproof. And I think that's basically everything I wanted to say. Oh, one more thing. Some people were asking about, since the carbon felt traps the alcohol and you can't get it back in the stove, I'd like to remind people that the cure for that is, once you get to know the stove and know how long it'll burn after you flip the remote up, if you're going to cook something, when you know it'll burn, say, 3 minutes after you flip it up, when you get into the end of your cooking and you know you need to cook about another 3 minutes, flip the remote before you're done cooking and do the last of your cooking while you burn off the alcohol in the wick. That way when you're finished, there won't be any alcohol left in the wick. You will have burned it all off, so you won't waste it. Because if you shut this off after you're done cooking, all that alcohol in the wick is basically lost. It's not a lot of alcohol, but you know, to be frugal, you want to let it burn off the last 3 minutes. Okay, I think that's everything as far as these two go. I also wanted, for the people that didn't realize it, and I didn't mention this in past videos because I haven't made a video in quite a while, I took this gerbil cage and made several things on it thinner and lighter. So now this one, without the fuel line, just a bare stove like this, without the simmer top, without the fuel line, weighs 3.5 ounces, which is, I believe, lighter than the original squirrel cage was. It's pretty light stove now. So just for the record, it's 3.5 ounces. It's very light now. You could take the old one, the first model, and this one, and feel a definite difference in it. So they're all like that now. It's a little more work, but I'm getting a little more money for them too. So I'm Tinny from Mini Bull Design. Get out and hike, take a friend, enjoy the great outdoors, and more important than anything, have a really great day. Bye-bye.